All right, Middlecoff. Press conference reaction live, March 29th. You know what day the draft is, John? April 29th, 1 month to the draft. Welcome, everybody, to the YouTube channel.
Something big just happened with the Niners.
What do you mean? I mean, they just had that press conference. Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm just asking. It was a joke, but not that funny. Yeah. I'm gonna say something really quick because I have friends on other teams that call me to complain. I don't think it can be understated how good John Lynch is on just the amount of time as a pro scout, as a fucking contract negotiator. If you're working for a product, you work so many more hours. Especially John Lynch makes millions. Kyle makes millions. Adam Peters might make seven figures. Obviously, Parag makes good cash. Most scouts are making like $100,000, and relative to how much time they put in, it's in any other job they'd be making 800. If they were working on Wall Street, would be making huge cash. He listing all those names is a big deal because I have friends that work for teams that they never hear their name said. They just think they're just working like in this little office for nothing. It's like doing it, don't get any credit. Because the coaches, Kyle doesn't have to do it as much because we naturally talk about all the assistant coaches, right? They just get talked about. No one knows the pro director or whatever. You spend so much time doing all these projects for these guys, working 20 hours a day, making, you still make a decent living, but relative to how much you work, you're underpaid. And I just think he's really good at that.
It's not just, Parag doesn't talk a lot. So when Parag gets credit for something, Parag doesn't then come to the mic and thank the 4 people that helped him with the project, right? Like that's one of the things John Lynch did was he thanked the people that also spent a lot of time with Parag and setting the prices for what their free agents are going to be.
Parag's been getting a lot of credit the last couple.
That's what I'm saying.
Right?
Parag gets credit,
naming those guys for sure.
But then he doesn't come to the microphone and get to shout out his assistants, air quotes.
No,
not to mention also mentioning agents, which doesn't hurt, right? They mentioned multiple agents, D Ford's agent.
They mentioned
Justin Fields / Deshaun Watson's agent.
I think that guy has a bunch of guys too.
Yeah.
The relationship with agents, you can't. I think 20, 30 years ago, like when we were kids growing up, it was contentious. It was like you were enemies with them. And we were talking about this the other day, off the podcast, like Drew Rosenhaus. When we were early in college, early 2000s, Rosenhaus was the equivalent of remember when Mark Cuban first got to the NBA, double middle fingers, him and Andy Reid, everyone wanted to fight the guy. Now it's like Belichick just went on record as yeah, he's my favorite agent, love dealing with him. The Niners have loved him forever. You need these agents. They are, if you read any book about how to do business, you got to go through the gatekeeper. Well, you know who the gatekeeper is for the athletes? The fucking agent. And the Niners, and I think, I've been worked with Howie. Howie's great with it too. John Stein, all these big time teams work well with agents. The thing the Texans have going on is not a way to do business, right? You need the agents to get guys to resign, to be able to do contract extensions, to even keep you in the loop. And now to me it helps. The one thing I've been thinking about, remember the big thing with Mahomes was because they were drafting way far away, and even when they traded up, they weren't going to be able to get that high, was working with the agent. I wonder how the Niners are going to balance that. At this time, it wouldn't behoove them to let the guy know, but at the same time, you'd want a better relationship with the player leading up so you feel really comfortable about it. It's kind of a hard line because it can get out fast. It didn't with Mahomes. I think it would behoove, if I was one of the agents for any guy not named Trevor Lawrence, I would desperately want my guy to go to the 49ers.
Yeah.
If I was Zach Wilson's agent, I would not want him to go to the Jets. I want him to go to the 49ers.
I do think one thing.
Right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I do think one thing, you think about what John Lynch said in that press conference was we started having conversations about this trade at the beginning of March. He started naming people with the Dolphins, right? We started having conversations at the beginning of March. So that was obviously something that's been going on for a month. Beginning of March, we're at the end of March. So those conversations stayed quiet. And I would imagine if the Dolphins were having that conversation with the Niners, they were having those conversations with other teams too, because they had to know exactly.
Albert Breer wrote it that Howie's known for 2 weeks. They've just kept it quiet.
Yeah, so they've done a really good job, everybody involved, of keeping this thing quiet, right? Now the other teams
makes sense, right? If you all want something to happen, it doesn't behoove you to put it out.
So
The
by
one
the
thing
same
Breer
token,
wrote is the Dolphins did not shop the offer. They just said they were open for business, but they weren't like, hey, if you want. Part of the reason it didn't get out is they go, Team X, we have 3 first-rounders on the table. Then I think people could probably decipher, right? We have a pick in the early teens. It would be pretty obvious. They didn't do that.
although I would say this, if there was a rumor out there that
I
said
would've.
the Dolphins have 3 ones on the table, 3 ones is a lot. 3 ones does tell you it's not a team coming from 6. But 3 ones could mean there's a team coming from 20, right? 3 ones is a lot. And that's where I think
I would have guessed not the Niners. I would have guessed like the Patriots, wouldn't you? Or
somebody coming from further away.
or the Bears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's where Kyle said one thing I thought listening to this, one of my takeaways was, and you can hit us in the comments as well. We'll get to some of these. One thing, we got some Raider fans yelling at each other in the comments, John. One thing I took away when he said that they felt like they were going to get left at the altar if they stayed at 12. We talked about this on the podcast. We made some YouTubes about, do they love Mac? Is all of this smoke screen? They're going to go see Justin Fields. Adam Peters is going to see him tomorrow. Then they, as Kyle said in this thing, they're going to go see him again. They asked him, what do you think of Mac? He said, I've only just started watching him in January, which makes sense. Kyle's not grinding college tape on Saturday during the NFL season when he plays the next day. But I do think they have an idea what they like. But I do buy that the reason they did this was that they are confident they like somebody of the group, that they haven't necessarily decided who that person is yet because they're not in total control of who that person's going to be. But watching them talk, I think they think that they're not going to be bad enough to get the 12th pick again. They're betting on themselves that they won't be as bad as they were last year. And if they don't have the 12th pick again, it's only harder to move up. And I think their conclusion is the only way to get one of these guys is in the draft. And sitting at 12, we can't get them without moving. And we're not going to be sitting at 12 again. So it's only going to get more expensive for us to do this. I think that's how they justified it. They think they're going to be good.
Here's where I would push back. I think they have a definitive 2 of the 3 of them they view as, without hesitation, Kyle would view as a franchise quarterback. They may not, like right now, if Trey Lance, Justin Fields, maybe they don't have the specific. I have a hard time believing that Kyle doesn't have his ranking, and they have a good idea. Like if Zach Wilson's not, they know the guy. If the 3 of them were there, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, which one they would take. I think they know that right now of those 3 guys.
Yeah, I'm not saying they
maybe
don't.
Zach Wilson, something happens.
Yeah, I'm just saying I think they look at it like some years 3 doesn't get you high enough, and 12 to 3 or 12 to 2 is as tight as we're going to be, as close as we're going to be. We think we're going to be drafting at 22 next year or 18 or whatever.
I think where they really got helped out is Zach Wilson kind of when Joe Burrow came out of nowhere and pushed his guys down. Because on a typical year, Trey Lance or Justin Fields probably all go in the top 4, and they still might. But like if you're at 3, you wouldn't even get one of those 2 guys. I think they're going, we're going to get the pick between the litter of the 2. And I also think you could tell Kyle like doesn't want to bash Kirk Cousins. I think he thinks Kirk Cousins, but I think he's a little tired of, just I only want these stiff white guys.
Yeah,
right?
Good job by the media.
Like a guy
you keep asking him about Kirk Cousins. Eventually enough, he'll get annoyed enough to go the other way. Yeah. That is the key.
Another take I have, I think they're 100% lying about Jimmy Garoppolo. Not that they are opposed to bringing him back, but to me the game plan is to keep drumming up the interest, wait till see where people are, and get a pick that is worthy. Because even Kyle's like, I'd trade myself. Like, yeah, guys, you guys are trading him. I do not believe that Jimmy Garoppolo will be on the team, honestly, in training camp. I just, not when you just don't give up this much in the modern day NFL with how easy it is to transition. I have a hard time seeing it. I know they keep saying, it's just he's only played 1 season. Like I just don't see it. I really don't. And I like Kyle's answer about like the Alex Smith thing. It's like it really doesn't have any parallels. We're talking different people, different situations. They have to say it, and they're doing a good job of. I think playing the media would be the wrong because they're not even necessarily creating this, though. I'm sure they've leaked some of how much they like Jimmy. Obviously, John Lynch went on record, I think, with NFL Network the moment the trade was made, right, at BYU. I think Steve Weish might have been at the BYU Pro Days. Like, Jimmy's our future. So it just kind of went out. And You won't get me to believe it.
Yeah, I think what we heard was not Kyle Shanahan telling us why Jimmy's going to be his quarterback. Kyle Shanahan was making the sales pitch, right? What's the sales pitch when you're saying, oh, well, guys, when you look at it, Jimmy's only really played 1 year. He's only really played 1 year. He said that a couple of times, which I thought we had stopped having that conversation a year ago. Like, Jimmy hasn't played that much. There's a lot left in the tank. The whole, he's – not that you say it this way specifically, but he's younger than his age. When you talk about experience, that was kind of the pitch Kyle was making. Basically, yes, the car was made 10 years ago, but it's low miles, right? That's the pitch he's making. And to me, that's what it is. It's a pitch. It's an argument. It's a case so somebody could he gets what's going on out there. He gets all this stuff that we're all talking about. I mean, I do think on some level these two guys, I don't know if they enjoy the press conference, but I do think they're good at it, and people like doing stuff they're good at. I've listened to a lot of press conferences over the years. I'm sure it happens a lot of places. I've watched more 49ers press conferences over the last 5 years than others. They get asked a lot about specific people who are not on their team. He gets asked a lot about Kirk. They got asked direct questions about Mac Jones. They address those things a ton. It doesn't feel normal to me. And I'm not complaining. I appreciate the questions.
Because, when I say pre-Andy Reid Mahomes, you wouldn't be like, Andy he had a hard-on for Daniel Jones or, just a random name. There's just random couple guys who are associated with Kyle. You just say Kyle Shanahan, everyone's like, Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins, right? It's just they immediately come up. And Kyle, annoyed might be strong, but you could tell, I think he's kind of tired of it, and it's going to end. Potentially. I mean, if Mac Jones is drafted, it doesn't end. If he takes one of the other two guys, or somehow Zach, if I'm Zach Wilson's agent, and I don't know for maybe the Niners like the other guys more than Zach Wilson. That's definitely possible. If I don't have Trevor Lawrence as my client and I'm representing any of these other guys, I'm doing everything possible to make him go to San Francisco. I would say we will not play for the Jets. I think I was just flipping around the channels this morning on my desk, and Get Up replay was at 6 a.m. But they do it way before we even get up here on the West Coast. And Dominique Foxworth was like, I would pull an Eli if I was one of these guys. He used Trevor Lawrence. Now I don't think Trevor Lawrence cares, and he's going to go to Urban Meyer. But any of the other quarterbacks, the Jets, the Falcons situation, I'm just going to Kyle Shanahan.
Well, it's by far and away the most proven offensive coach at the top of this draft. Yeah,
and I want my second contract. Right?
Yeah, it's just the best chance to succeed. And it's got they're just the most ready to win of all these teams drafting at the top of the draft. It's not really even an argument. One thing Kyle said was that it's very hard to succeed in the NFL year in and year out without a top 5 guy. Right? He said there is risk any season you go into without a top 5 quarterback. And later he said, sometimes I say top 5, sometimes I say top 10. But top 5 quarterback means, and Patrick Mahomes has put everybody in this position where everyone's trying to find Mahomes. Who we talk about Mahomes like he's a once in a lifetime prospect, and then we also talk about how everyone's trying to get Patrick Mahomes, right? It doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes, but you do need an elite player. That's what Kyle said, and it was good to hear him say that, right? Kyle didn't say, we feel like if we just have a top half quarterback, we can do enough things to build that player up. He said, anytime you enter a season without a top 5 quarterback, that's a risk. So you and I talked on the podcast yesterday, the move they made was dramatic to trade 3 ones. That's a risk, but it's also a risk to sit back and do nothing and hope that somebody's going to fall to you, or hope that you're going to find a guy, or hope that Jimmy's healthy, right? So that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to move up to get a top 5 quarterback. That's what he wants.
One thing, he also brought some clarity on the Mac Jones pro day situation.
Yeah.
Mac Jones is, for whatever reason, having a second pro day. Well, he's not going to have a third. And you can't do private workouts. You can't do all this stuff. It makes sense that they've already dealt with Justin Fields' agent, who's going to throw for them at a separate pro day. They're going to be able to do both. This is the last time to see Mac Jones. To me, that brings a lot more clarity of he's choosing Mac Jones over Justin Fields. He clearly, if you just watch the whole thing, that's not what's happening at all. He can go see Justin Fields again, where he won't have the opportunity to see Mac Jones.
And they're going to go see Trey Lance.
That was what I took out of it.
Yeah, because he said when you're 12, you have to be a little more careful about where you go. When you're at 3, you're not hiding as much. And it's in, and this goes back to your point on the agents. It's in the agent's best interest to make sure that if Kyle Shanahan wants to come see their guy's ready to throw for Kyle Shanahan, right? Also, I love that we make, like, QB Collective. That video's how many years old is all that video?
For whatever reason, I thought it was like 2 years old. It's 7. The guy was a junior in high school. I put little to no stock in that now.
I mean, Justin Fields was still eating in the cafeteria back when they made that video.
He was a junior in high school. That threw me for a loop. I think we need to maybe put a little less stock in Kyle and Justin Fields' connection. I was like, they've been hanging out for like the last 3 years at this quarterback camp no one's ever heard of. And Kyle's like, yeah, just this one thing I got invited to when we showed up. It was like 8 years ago.
Yeah,
like,
I guess the way it matters.
That's not quite the buzz on Twitter.
Has he been watching?
But I just think the way
Fields?
Twitter and the way I've assumed was like there's a camp every summer. They always bring Justin Fields and their boys. That's not the case.
Kyle doesn't age. That's part of it. You watch the tape, you're like, Kyle looks the same, but then he rolls out today with the beard and the hair as long as it's ever been. So
how about your look going?
It looks really good. He's jealous. It's hard to keep the sides. He's got a straighter hair. You know, the sides for me puff out if they get too long. How about him saying that Kyle said, my wife and I think when I'm having the same conversation with John Lynch 8 times a day, and we kind of are having the same conversation 8 times a day. And I think this speaks to, until this is settled, everything else is just up in the air. No matter what else you do, until you have a franchise quarterback, you are always looking for a franchise quarterback.
Well, to me, the conversation immediately starts is the moment you pull the trigger and draft whoever they pick, the calls on Jimmy Garoppolo are coming because some of these teams are going to get left out. And so what is the price? Like, are you cool with just giving them away for a third? Do they think maybe we can get a second and like a fourth? Like, do they think that people get desperate quarterback? You want to prop them up? I think it would be a lot different if we knew the offseason was happening and starting like next week. Like Jimmy would be in and they'd be having player press conferences. Like he'd get to talk. Like he might not have to talk before the draft, and how I think Jimmy's in the tough position of, I mean, they've kind of said it. Like, I don't think he was happy. I mean, because why would you be? You're the fucking starting quarterback for the 49ers and you make $20 million a year and you just, your 1 year you were successful. And you basically get a tweet they kind of said it, even though I thought I read that they had called him after, but they kind of acted like they called him before. Either way, you basically are being told, like, listen, we're getting a divorce. We're getting a divorce. It might be in a year. We're going to tell everyone it's in a year, but it could easily happen in like 2 months. But we're basically already sleeping with the other person right now. And depending on what goes down, we're going to keep sleeping with you, and we're going to need you to be really happy. We're going to need you to cook dinner. We're going to need you to take the kids to the school. We're going to need you to be exactly the great wife that you've been. But we're moving on. And we'll dictate when that divorce ends at a moment's notice. You might just get a call from us and be like, you're going back to New England. Or actually, we'll see you in training camp. But we'll never know. Maybe the guy's good, and we'll just move on to you 2 weeks into training camp. Like, it is. I personally would pull the trigger like right now. Obviously, there might be more. You might be able to get a little bit more, but it's going to be very, very awkward. There's no way if they do go to training camp with both of them. The awkwardness will be strong.
Yeah, which the awkwardness doesn't bother me necessarily.
I look at it more for the younger guy. It's a weird spot for him.
Yeah, it's not a good. I'm with you, and we did a whole video we talked about on the podcast.
He doesn't get to control
why Jimmy Garoppolo
right?
is not the Alex Smith. But I do think you can't. Part of this is we've got the Jets sitting at 2, and they've got Sam Darnold. And so if you're a team that might add a guy, if you're the Patriots, if you're the Bears, if you're whoever, if you're a team that might add the Texans, if you're a team that might add a quarterback, now Jimmy's got a no trade, which complicates it. But I do wonder if you're waiting on those things to happen because there are some dominoes here, right? The Jets. Do they draft or not? If they draft a quarterback, let's say they take Zach Wilson at 2, do they trade Sam Darnold? If you're Bill Belichick, I mean, we assume you'd rather have Garoppolo. Would you rather have Sam Darnold? Would the Jets trade you Sam Darnold? There's this whole domino effect. But there is another quarterback out there that we talk about a ton, which is Darnold, right? There might be a team that likes Darnold more than they like Jimmy. So, I would not trade for Jimmy.
Oh,
right
yeah,
now
I see.
If I'm on the other side of this,
And Sam's cheaper. right? So if you even
Sam's
if you
cheaper,
viewed them
but
as
you
equals,
like,
wouldn't you take the cheaper guy?
yeah, I mean, because, we talked to Schefter. He said
No,
late one or late two.
Sam's cheaper. I said Jimmy.
No, you said Sam. I'm just saying
Sam's
there is
cheaper.
the problem with, do you pick up his fifth-year option, and then how much do you have to trade for one of these guys? Like, that's a big part of the cost here. Am I trading a fourth, or am I trading a second? I wouldn't trade a second, but,
I think both guys make you pretty nervous, right? If you're trading for either one. One thing was pretty telling, and I'm glad they just admitted it. Like, they didn't hide from it. Like, yeah, well, guys, we paid a premium to move up early.
Yeah.
Like, we paid a premium to just not get left at the altar. We're admitting it. Like, they were not hiding from, we thought it was fair value. Like, no, we overpaid, which is fine. Like,
to be
and
first.
This gets to what I talked about yesterday on the podcast. Like, they're putting their careers on the line. And I don't mean about getting blown out in 2 or 3 years. Just simply in a vacuum, this is as high as you can possibly pay to move up. Like, it doesn't get any bigger than this. 3 first-round picks. It's really 2, but, given 12 and the 2 other ones, it's a shitload. And they're admitting it. Like, we just fucking paid, $2 million for a $1 million house. We're expecting the market to fly up and that house to be worth $5 million. But as we've seen over and over, sometimes the market crumbles, the quarterback can't play, and it's a devastating blow. Like, it truly would be.
Well, but just to work with that analogy, like the market, their thing is there's 2 parts of this. The market crumbles, maybe you buy the wrong house. But right now the market is only relevant up until draft day. After that, the market, now it's just about your house, right? Are you able to build it up or not? The market, they're saying we are confident this market is going to be super hot, that people didn't even realize how quickly these quarterbacks are going to go. It's what Kyle said. We think these quarterbacks are going to go higher than people realize. That's what he said.
Yeah, they're not wrong about that. Like that, they're 100% correct about that. To me, I guess my analogy is strictly like they're eventually just going to move into the house. And does the house have termites, or does it turn out that's a house that fucking NBA superstars are willing to pay $15 million for? And that to me, the more and more I've thought about it, even since recording the pod last night, I think we're underestimating, and I'm glad. I'm a risky guy. Like I fucking do crazy shit. Like in terms of investments, take huge risks relative to the money I have. I am pro making big risks, but the risk they're taking, just like anybody that takes a big investment risk or whatever with their quote unquote life savings, it is massive and it is not fail proof. History would say, and Kyle again, they're giving these numbers out like 50-50 is like the chance in a normal year. He kind of didn't want to say it, but like you could argue this year it's more like 40-60, right? I don't get to have dinner. I don't get to meet any of these guys.
No, I think it's 30-70. Ron Wolf always said, I remember Trent Baalke saying several years ago that Ron Wolf told him if you hit 333, you're having a pretty good draft. And I went back and looked. Ron Wolf basically hit 333 over the course of 54 picks. He hit 330. And he's viewed as a very good drafting executive, right? Like what Jason Light and the Bucks did is not normal. They hit like 750.
Yeah, he's had an incredible run. And that's why Brady got there. I had someone DM me. They're like, do you think the Bucks team is better than the 07 Patriots? I'm like, I mean, Randy Moss probably better than anyone the Bucks have, but just the Bucks defense and all their other role players, I mean, yeah, probably. I mean, it's the only thing that's different is like 07 Brady, probably just purely better at a younger age than now. But I mean, it's not like Tom's shitty now, but it's like, yeah, his team is, you could argue player for player, especially they basically brought everyone back. Is this one of the best teams Tom Brady's ever played on? He's played on some of the best teams in the history of football. It's like that to me, get back to the Niners. Everyone's like, they can make a Super Bowl run. They did make a Super Bowl run. They beat Minnesota, who's a good team, but they annihilated non-mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And then they've just always matched up well against Green Bay because they're more physical. And you see Tampa did too. Like I'd say Tampa, like one thing with the Harbaugh teams, they matched up well against any soft team. And then if you weren't quite as talented as them, as you were a physical team like that one Carolina Panthers team, they could just overwhelm you. But the one team that was like, okay, we'll go blow for blow with you was like Seattle. And it was just a coin flip game. And the Niners lost some of them, right? Like I would say Tampa's better than the Niners, 100%. It's not even arguable. And then like I'd say the Rams have just, depending on the Niners quarterback play, or just they can physically hang now. I mean, they have been able to. It's just Jared Goff couldn't. But Matt Stafford, if you watch some of these videos, like he's a tough son of a bitch. Like the Niners aren't going to rattle him quite as easy, right?
No,
it's just going to be more.
player.
I just think my point is the NFC, maybe Jameis is like good. I mean, I think the NFC could be pretty strong at the top.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even like a Washington football team, that's just a team that's they're not going to be probably as talented with Fitzpatrick, even though I saw Fitzpatrick light up the Niners. They'll just be like, we'll hang with it. We'll play a physical game with you, right? We'll play in the teens. We'll throw a blow. I just think it's become a little more physical of a conference these last couple years, with Tampa being really good, Washington just having an elite defense.
The Niners were a part of that. The Niners were a part of that, right? The way they defend and run the football.
But that was a huge point of difference for them in 19. I think it's harder to have it be a true point of difference, like to really separate. And listen, there's nothing wrong with being 13-3 and being the Niners would kill to be 11-6 this year.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like if I said they could be 11-6, would they take that right now?
Yes. Especially, with either quarterback, but especially with a rookie quarterback, you win 11 games? Or even in a 16-game season, 10 games? How many teams win 10 games with rookie quarterbacks?
Well, I mean, really good teams. Like, I think Seattle did that one year when Russell's first year. You go back to Roethlisberger. Like that,
and they were in the Super Bowl 2 years later.
This goes back to the Jimmy thing. I think the Niners our roster, we have nothing in common with these top 10 teams, right? If our rookie can just be a B-, we don't need him to be an A+. Just be like Roethlisberger as a rookie or Russell as a rookie. You just ease into it. We'll build you around. We can win double-digit games. That's where I get back to them lying about Jimmy. I don't believe for a second that they go and it's going to be hard because I guess you don't get rookie minicamp, or I guess we'll find out in the next couple of weeks as they're going back and forth. You can tell John Lynch and Kyle, like they want fucking offseason activities. Like one thing's clear in the NFL right now, the coaches and GMs all desperately want life to come back to normal. Like get guys in the facility. The problem is the players don't, and you know who doesn't really care? The owners. You know, it's like, yeah, do we really want to argue about this?
We're not paying for anything anyway. They're like, well, we're not paying salaries, but I guess we got to pay for hotel rooms. We're saving all the money. I do think.
Yeah, we could do without. Could we meet in the middle? Maybe get like a couple rookie mini camps.
The owners who care about winning, should care because their coaches are telling them it matters.
I'm not saying they don't care. I'm just saying even the guys that care about winning, it's like, am I going to get into a knockdown drag out with the PA over this? You know, just give them one more year.
The owners just saw a season with empty stadiums flip into $10 billion of contracts for television rights. So the owners are I think the owners are probably feeling pretty bulletproof right now.
It's actually, I think it's closer to like 11.2 because it's 113 billion. It's actually averages out
right.
more than
You should always round up on your billions. Let's get a few. You want to get a few comments in here? React to a few people?
Did I write anything else down good? I still can't get over that pictures from his junior in high school. I assumed it was like at minimum like
and
Georgia.
Kyle's only done it once. He's like, I've only done that QB Collective thing once. I thought he was like the head honcho of the collective.
One more thing. And maybe it's different just because naturally I think like if you work for the New York Giants, you were going to do something like this. Like you need to get John Mara. You probably have to convince him, right? The Rooneys, he would be part of the meetings. I'm going to include the Raiders in this. With Mark and Jed, once they hire you and they're good, you don't need like, what was it like getting approval? You mean approval? We just told Jed like we're doing. He's like, fuck yeah, let's do it. So Mark Davis with John Gruden. With the West Coast teams, I can't speak to Seattle, but I would say even Bidwell in Arizona, like he just kind of goes with Keim. Maybe it's our culture out here, but I know for a fact with the Niners and the Raiders, there's not like, what's it like getting approval? No, you just, hey, Mark or Jed, we're doing this. They're like, oh, cool. Like, let me know. Shoot me the press release. It's not like
but it's the smart
hierarchy.
It's the smart thing to treat it that way, right?
No, I know. But I'm just saying, I don't blame the John for answering it. And Kyle was like, you answered the ownership part because I don't even think Kyle wants to fake it. It's just, is like Jed's people telling the reporter to like ask that question to try to make them feel superior. It's like, we all know that's not the way it's working out here. You think, oh, Kyle, they wouldn't allow Kyle to trade the extra one for Fields. Like, give me a break. I'm not even trying to talk shit about Jed.
No, I think what you're always looking for.
That's not the way it's working.
I think what I always love reading, I think maybe what that question was aiming for was some detail on what the exact conversations were like, you know? I think that's what Peter King and Albert Breer write so much about, right? And then at 10:52, John Lynch he looped Kyle Shanahan in on a speakerphone. They got Jed on the phone. Jed was getting ready to board a plane for Tahiti, but Jed held off on the tarmac for a moment to talk to that's what you're always looking for. You love that stuff.
Did you hear John was like, the one thing Jed's been around here a lot, with Corona, you can't really go
You
anywhere.
can't
AKA,
travel.
like, super rich people ain't able to just go wherever they
I
want
know.
anymore. So he's just been in the Bay, so we see him a lot.
I
If
know.
I was an owner, and I know Jed's like this too, and I would imagine half the owners probably like this, I'd much rather have my guys give me a deal like this than just wait at 12, right? Think how much credit you get with your fan base. Like, hell yeah, they got balls. They're going for it.
Absolutely. Well, you don't lose. No one fires you. You're the owner. So,
It's an easy move.
all right, let's see here. Arthas. Let me remember if I'll get comments up. Chris Sims. Here's a comment, John. Chris Sims is convinced Kyle is taking Mac Jones. He wants his Matt Ryan in San Francisco. So I've been thinking about this a lot. You and I have talked about it a lot. Obviously, Kyle said during the thing that like he doesn't tell Chris Sims anything, which I don't believe. But I do think it's perfect for Chris Sims. Like I'm just imagining I'm media guy Chris Sims and you are Kyle Shanahan, head football coach. Either way, it's good for me that John Middlecoff's the head football coach of the San Francisco 49ers or the GM of the 49ers. So everyone thinks that that's who Kyle likes. So, yeah, it'd be great if a month out I predicted who John drafted. Like, man, I'm telling you, John Middlecoff loves Mac Jones. I know you guys are going to go crazy, but you can come back and tell me I was right. But I think if I care about you, like I'm friends with you, I want you to look good. I got this media job, whether or not I'm right about Mac Jones or not, doesn't matter. The beauty of you not drafting Mac Jones is I can say, I got to tell you guys, I've known John Middlecoff his whole life. And the John Middlecoff I know from 5-10 years ago would draft Mac Jones. But this is a significant change in the way he thinks about quarterbacks, and I am so impressed. I didn't think he'd do it, but he did it. Like I think it's a perfect setup for Sims. And I don't know that Sims is trying to play that game. Maybe he just believes it. I like Sims. But I do think there is a perfect setup. Like, I got to tell you guys, I did not think John would do it. He did it. I couldn't be happier to be wrong. Like, the second they draft Justin Fields or Trey Lance, Chris Sims is going to say, I couldn't be happier to be wrong about this. Let's go. I don't.
See, where I stand is you can't convince me they're not working together.
Yeah, or that. But I don't think it ends with Kyle drafting Mac Jones.
I hope not, but I can't for sure. The top 5 quarterback comment did make like he's had a couple subtle comments that it's like he kind of admitted without saying like I can't win a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. Like it's kind of clear. Like but Kirk's a winner and he's a good player and I liked him, but I wasn't dead set. Like we got traded Jimmy and I pivoted. You kind of look at the hints he drops. He's not going to crush guys he likes, and you wouldn't even have to crush Cousins. But like I was dead set on getting him. I liked him. He hammered this home a couple times. We drafted him in the 4th round, and then we got Jimmy, and we just kept Jimmy. I think he's basically saying like, I think you guys overcomplicate everything.
Yes.
You think like the ship's gonna go down, and there's gonna be a lifeboat, and I'm just gonna be like, I'm staying on Kirk Cousins' ship, and I'm gonna just drown on this boat. No, you idiots! I'm gonna jump on the lifeboat, and then if that lifeboat goes going down, and there's another lifeboat, I'll jump on the other lifeboat. And you could tell today, not heated, but he was just like, let's change the conversation a little bit. But he knows, I think he can forever, I think we all agree, change the conversation on Kyle Shanahan April 29th at pick 3, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Because if he does draft Mac Jones, there would never be any shaking that, right? Kyle would be established of exactly what he is and what he likes.
Yeah. Yeah. Akash says, it feels like Kyle Shanahan wants elite traits at QB, now at 3, but still needs a QB to make throws from the pocket. Screams Fields to me. Just going back to the point that you just made. The other part of it, somebody, Joshua, a couple of people said this, Sims lied about Ayuk so Kyle could get him. Is that true?
Yeah,
a couple of people said that. Did Sims say that?
Maybe.
That he lied about, he didn't put Ayuk on his big board?
Maybe he just crushed him, didn't say he was a good player on some tweets. I think
Maybe.
people are here's the one thing, like, me with Twitter, like I think it's a little overrated. The one thing that's not overrated is like when you hear from people in the league, like, I saw what you said on Twitter. Like, what's this vibe on Twitter? Like, what's going on Twitter? They do make a big deal of it. So I think that's where Kyle knows this guy was his best friend when these guys almost said they didn't have a pot to piss in. Both these guys grew up rich. But when these guys were nothing, right? When these guys were 18, 19, 20, you grow up in that and you become friends with people. You have a special bond. I don't believe for a second they're not like
talking.
Maybe Chris doesn't ask him specifically like on game week, like doesn't bother him on sometimes. But their conversations are, they can talk about anything from their families to the football team to the players he likes. And then I think Kyle realizes he can kind of play people. And so does Chris.
What do you think's better for Chris? And I know the answer to this because I know because you and I have talked about this over the years. What's more fun for Chris? This, playing this out, knowing that Kyle isn't going to draft Mac Jones, or just being right? I think a month of this, texting with Kyle, talking about how I'm telling everybody you love Mac Jones, is more fun for Chris Sims than just being right about Mac Jones.
One thing I will say just overall, I just think in the media game, I think being right or being wrong is kind of irrelevant. I don't think it – maybe if you are specific like Mel Kiper, but that's not really Chris's role. I mean, he has some takes, but I don't think it really has that big of a – it doesn't change anything. I don't believe in anyone.
I think
you're
so
right or wrong. You just –
I think so much of it is just can you defend your people are, like I said, Ron Wolf hit 333. Is there logic to what you think or what you do? But especially once you establish at a certain point.
Everyone I see with Mac Jones, here's the thing. There is 100% logic with what he's saying. It's not crazy at all. I think the reason he's getting so much reaction, authentic reaction, is because it's very believable. So even if he takes another player, I think people will just go back like, God, Chris, I believed him. It made sense. Thank God he was wrong. I think that's where people would be. Thank God Chris Sims was wrong. Sometimes, typically, when someone's wrong, there's animosity. Like, you said we were going to suck. I remember one time I said the Raiders were going to go 4-12. They ended up winning 7 games that year. You would have thought in my timeline they won 16. But it was out of animosity that they thought I was taking a stance. They wanted me to be wrong. Or they wanted me to be – they got joy when I was wrong. Like, I think people are hoping that Sims is not like it just,
go back to what
there's
you
a lot
said.
Of logical sense behind it.
There's a lot of logic to what he's saying. Yep. There's a lot of logic to what he's saying. Somebody asked, they did not see North Dakota State. Jaden says, thought when he was asked about Lance, he went into all other QBs, didn't think he wanted to show his hand on Trey Lance. They are going to, you would expect that they're going to go see him throw. He seemed to indicate that they were going to go see him throw. Just he might, if he said it specifically and I missed it, but I mean, he said basically, yeah, we're in North Dakota. We were drafting 12 at that point in time. Now, of course, they're going to see him throw.
I thought 100%. I wrote down, "We're not tipping my hand." Just when he was asked about Trey Lance, he did pull like hang it to another road.
It's hard
because he's like, yeah, Mac Jones and Justin Fields. Yeah, he did not mention Trey Lance at all. That's where I get back to the Mac Jones thing, is to throw people off the scent of, because I would imagine most people go like, is Kyle really going to take Mac Jones or he's going to take Justin Fields? If he did take Trey Lance, it would feel a little bit like a curveball. Even though Trey Lance is viewed as a top 5 player. But I don't think, if you just had ranking it to an average fan, who do you think Kyle's going to take? I think most people would say Mac Jones or Justin Fields, and Trey Lance would be the third guy of the group.
Yeah, I think I'd put Lance ahead of Jones in that regard.
I'm saying if you just ask
who you
think Kyle's going to take.
Let's ask, who do you guys think Kyle's going to take? By the way,
like Kyle saying Jimmy's performance better, the angrier he gets in drafting a quarterback might help fire up his game. I didn't even know what to make of. Yeah, he said that Jimmy is better when he's pissed off or angry. Probably angry a lot.
Yeah, again, like I think part of that is his pitch. I think part of that is him saying, boy, anybody that any team that Jimmy Garoppolo plays for this year is going to be getting a Jimmy Garoppolo with something to prove. And that's, maybe he's convincing himself, but I think he's convincing other teams, other fans.
I was kind of zoning. I wasn't super locked in on the Alex Smith question. Did he mention that Alex is a great veteran? Did you remember that? Did he say that?
Was that at the end? I had to take a pee break.
No. Yeah, when they were just asked about like it It was in the middle when they
Oh.
said the Chiefs situation with Alex. Is there some parallels in this situation? His deal was like every situation is so different. He's like nothing parallels each other. A lot of people are saying Lance.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think Kyle will take Jones, and it will be a big mistake.
I think if you bring, I think the Alex Smith thing is tough given how much quarterback injury has been a story with this 49er team. You know, like Alex is a great backup if he's your backup and your rookie is starting. But if you're trying to make the playoffs,
what I wouldn't be opposed to do is going Trey Lance or Fields, trading for Minshew as my backup, having a third quarterback and just paying the veteran minimum. It doesn't feel like anyone's paying Alex Smith, and just having Alex Smith around.
So who's starting your football games? Your rookie?
Yeah. My rookie.
And then Minshew's your backup?
So you will never convince me. I don't even care what Kyle says. If the rookie doesn't start, I will not be happy. I don't play that game.
I won't be either, but I mean, you still got to get the guy, like you've said, you got to get the guy into camp and see that he's ready to play, right?
Yeah, you just got to. To me, you learn under fire. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I go back to what I said yesterday on the podcast. The way you play with your rookie year one is not necessarily the way you have to play with him year two. You can play with a rookie quarterback a certain way in year one. I don't want to use, with not your hands tied, but you just play a different kind of football than ultimately you want to get to, just as a measure to get the guy on the field. So I think
if
that's
the
definitely
rookie
possible.
is not playing, I hope I'm wrong and Jimmy's still around, because at least that's more interesting. Like I wouldn't be cool with them shipping Jimmy out and starting Minshew.
That's what. See, I do think that's not out of the realm of possibility. Like, I don't think everything they're doing right now is just a show. Like, they need to go see these guys. They need to talk to these guys. Then they're going to draft one. Then they got to see how good the guy is. Like, really, what do we think of him? So I lean with you. I do think ultimately it's about trading Jimmy on draft day or the day after the draft, which is, again, a month from now. But I'd be shocked if Jimmy's not on the team and somebody else other than the rookie is their starting quarterback. That doesn't make any sense.
You don't think they have a specific name circled right now, like 100% this is their guy, unless something dramatic changes?
Yeah, I think they've got a ranking. But I also think that they felt like we're going to be good. We're not going to be drafting at 12 again, and it's only going to be harder to get up and get an elite player. So
I think they have a guy.
Yeah, I think they've got a number one guy, but I also think they have a number two guy. Like, they feel like there's enough, right?
See, I think they pulled the trigger once and this is where I think they lied a little bit about the Jets thing. Like, I think they got a pretty good idea what's going to shake out. Whether that's the Jets or someone else takes, like Zach Wilson's going to go to, and they know exactly who they would take at 3. Again, predicated on Trevor going 1, which is now a fait accompli, right? It's just over. I mean, it's not that it ever wasn't, but it
become a thing. I remember that was a couple years ago. It was a draft thing.
I don't know. I just like throwing it out there. It feels like smart people say it, and then Zach Wilson. I mean, Zach Wilson's independent of the Niners, right? Everyone's just been saying he's the number 2 guy. He's the number 2 guy. People like Chris Sims. There are people that think he's better than Trevor Lawrence. Which, listen, like, I don't think it's blasphemy. Now it'd be pretty.
Is
nuts,
Sims trying to push Trevor Lawrence down to the Niners?
Urban Meyer already admitted they're taking him today to Peter King, so it's like nothing Sims can do. Unless Trevor Lawrence said, I will not go to Jacksonville and do not take me to New York. You think there's any chance he could pull that off, or one of them would just take him?
I think somebody would take him.
Like, what if his agent came out?
I think somebody would take him.
So it's like, I think they know exactly, as of today, based on the information and the film, that they're taking Trey Lance, Justin Fields, or Mac Jones. Now, where it can potentially change, like, if they are able to do some sneaky dinner, I don't think are you not allowed to do dinners right now? That maybe they find out, like, God, I didn't really like this guy. That to me is always possible. They have him identified on film. The reason people fail and succeed in the NFL is not often at quarterback. At defensive end, Solomon Thomas, Cleveland Farrell, physical attributes. Quarterback, most of these guys, most physical attributes of starting quarterbacks in the NFL, arm strength's a little hit or miss on, some guys are better than others. But like the baseline, all these guys have it. It's going to be based on desire, work ethic, intangibles off the field, leadership, intellectual capacity, football intellectual capacity, ability to, quiet the outside noise, ability to handle money, ability to handle fame, ability to handle the shitty times. And this is where I get back to the risk involved. We have no clue. They don't. No one does whenever you take a draft pick at quarterback, how they're going to handle all that stuff. Because at least with line or wide receiver, it's like you just kind of get out there and play, get your plays, and just you can get into a rhythm. Like quarterback, like it can snowball fast, right? And maybe you're a guy have any of these guys ever had any adversity, right? Like Mac Jones.
I mean, Fields had to transfer. Do you count that? What happened to him at Georgia?
I mean, he did go to transfer to Ohio State.
No, I know, but just he was not.
It's a little.
The starter.
It's first class adversity.
Probably thought he was better than Jake Fromm. Didn't get to start. I'm sure he did think he was better than Jake Fromm. Yeah. I mean, Trey Lance. Like this is where everything you just said. The thing about Trey Lance was determined to be a quarterback, and he went to the only school in America. You have to NCAA tournament got me. I love saying America. Like the only program in America. Not the country, not the only college football, the only program in America that was going to let him be a quarterback. Only one. That's how much. I was thinking about Tim Tebow last night when I was thinking about this. Like, remember everyone would crush Tebow. Like, dude, if you love football, you would switch to tight end.
Why don't you become Kyle Juszczyk, bro?
Well, you know what we didn't know? Because in his head, he's like, no, I want to be a quarterback. And if I'm not going to be a quarterback, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go play professional baseball. Fine. Cool. Like, so the Trey Lance thing to me is really impressive. That he wanted to be a quarterback so bad that he went to the only place that would let him be a quarterback. I think there was something to be said for that. Now, do you draft him because of that? No. But I think that says a lot about the guy. That's how bad, when you talk about desire, like how badly does he want it? Like that's how badly he wants it. I think we've got I think all these guys have something.
Well, I think the three of them. I mean, is there a chance Mac Jones, if you sit down with Kyle Shanahan, be like, to be honest with you, I couldn't say this because of the program and we were winning. I never for a second believed I wasn't better than Tua when I was in practice. You can ask my teammates; some of them might think I'm better. Like that.
Hell, they said it on TV. John, three of them have said it on TV.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, when Mac's never going to say that publicly, but is he telling some of these teams, like, I truly believed? Then you can ask Coach Saban, like I was telling him when we individually meet. Yeah, big time. So here's the thing with Mac Jones, and he's going to be the guy that's going to get the most negative publicity from fans because people feel that he's the lowest ceiling guy, which is true because he's not the athlete these other guys are. And like when you say best case scenario, Matt Ryan, it's just not going to excite people. It's just not. And Matt Ryan, to me, it's hard to. I mean, he came from Boston College, but if that's the best case, like people are hoping for something much better, which is fair, I think. But like if he does become like, he might just be really solid. It's going to be one of those where it's going to be so heightened and there's going to be so much emotion. So many people are going to have opinions. But even when draft night happens, no one's going to know fucking thing. Right? I mean, it's going to take like the end of a couple years. Because even like, as Lamar Jackson, he fell to 32. And like 3 years later, if they could redo that draft, does Lamar Jackson go like 1? I guess Josh Allen probably would go 1, just more protocol. But what does Lamar Jackson go 2? Because if you just draft Lamar Jackson, you're guaranteed to make the playoffs every year. He's that sweet. But no one knew that at the time. And people were like, God, he fell to 32. That's kind of weird. But you just don't know what you – like Josh Rosen to the Cardinals. I remember thinking like, God, they only had to trade a third-round pick to move up 5 spots. It's a good deal. He was terrible, and he's awful. He's just not going to be an NFL player probably. And I'm not trying to like – because I hate it. Like Greg Papa's king of this. Like, we got to wait 3 years. No, we don't have – we got to give our opinion now. We don't have 3 years. But – we're going to give strong opinions, and every fan's going to have one. You're hearing from, I'm hearing from. We're seeing these – people are fired up on this. But Kyle, they're not even going to know draft night. Even the first couple practices, every practice will go. They'll have an opinion. But until you actually – and unlike like baseball, you can do simulated games. In basketball, you can pay like 5-on-5. In football, we really won't know, including the 49ers – to like a live preseason game when they go, okay, this guy's coming in to start the second quarter. Everyone's going to be like, okay, here we go, right? And not that that's going to make or break him, but that'll be the first time, even at practice, if we go to like a fall camp practice, you'll be able to see whoever it is sling it and run around. You're like, he looks the part. Okay, I can see it. But you don't truly know because we've seen it for years. Like, this guy's balling in camp. And then it's like, his first preseason game didn't go that well. And then, they can't even put him in pads. He's the third stringer.
But think about, John.
My point is there's just so much unknown that this gets back to the pressure on this guy. It's going to be crazy. And could you make the argument that this guy now, like I've always said, I thought Trevor Lawrence was overhyped. Not in the sense that he's not going to be a potential Pro Bowler, but just the hype on him coming in. It's just high as it can be. He's basically like 3 best quarterback prospects last 40 years. Elway, Peyton, Luck, Lawrence. It's like, Jesus. I mean, he was the number 1 overall pick after his first, his rookie or his freshman season. It was just like snowballed. I actually think you could make the argument going to Jacksonville. Urban takes a lot of the pressure just naturally. Could this guy have more pressure on him than definitely Zach Wilson and the Jets, but than Trevor Lawrence? Just based on the picks, and he's at a franchise that's way more relevant?
Yeah, I mean, the Trevor Lawrence thing, I think, is a product of him being a name for 3 years, and you just run out of stuff to say about him. And so everyone's take is always topping everyone else's take. Like, I think the best prospect is Andrew Luck. Somebody said that when he was a freshman. Now we're a junior, and we got to find another way to talk about Trevor Lawrence. So, yeah, the pressure.
But NFL people are saying this. Like,
no, I get it. I'm just saying, like, part of why it's happened this way with Lawrence is because it's had 3 years to bubble to this. It hasn't had 3 years on Fields. It certainly hasn't had 3 years on Zach Wilson, right? Trey Lance has not had 3 years. Like, it's just you don't normally get 3 years because the guy won the national championship as a freshman. It's the same reason I think there was so much pressure on Tua last year. The Tua stuff was hot. Part of it was that Herbert was really good. I think everything you're describing, I think we just got to go back to last year when you're talking about, we'll have opinions after a game. You're damn right we will, because think about how it played out with Tua. The first moment Tua stepped on the field, it was, is he big enough? Does he look big? Does he look small? How about that out he threw from the end zone? That was a good throw. Was his arm strong enough? And then we watch him the second start. 12 of 22, 93 yards. Yeah, but they didn't need him to do much. And look at this one time he ran around. I mean, the Tua takes were, and I was right there, and I'm not apologizing for it. This is just the way it is. I think it'll be baseline is Tua. Because would you agree, every Tua play last year
Tua got benched in
was
a Denver
bigger
game.
than the way we talked about Goff. It was bigger than the way we talked about Wentz. It was bigger than the Josh Allen draft. Any of those guys, like Tua
the one
was
guy,
evaluated the way he was Alabama's guy
right?
who won the national championship as a freshman, and then Herbert was playing great, and Tua didn't play for 5 weeks.
Yeah, and then once he started playing, after the other guy was balling and they were good, he got yanked a couple times for that guy. He had a pretty unique. I'm with you. I mean, it doesn't get much more polarizing than Tua.
So it'll feel like that at least, and that's pretty big.
And it's not out of the realm of possibility that I could see Kyle like Flores, if they were a playoff team, yanking Trey Lance out for the backup if he was like Gardner Minshew and he just thought Gardner might be able to move him down the field and Trey was off. Like, I could see Kyle. Could you see Kyle doing something like that? If they're like 7-3 and it's a big game against the Rams and Trey Lance is like 0 for 10 and he just fucking yank him out of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, but
that immediately would be the biggest story in the NFL.
The thing with Tua was, we could spend last year saying what Mel Kiper said when he was on this podcast. He said Tua was hurt. And so there's, that's kind of part of the conversation. Tua was hurt. It was you should have redshirted him. So let's just wait and see. And I think also that team, maybe, I don't know if did they expect to be good? And then they were all of a sudden in these big games. It was like, we can't develop a quarterback right now because these games matter. But here's the other thing about the Jets. Back to your point that you think they know, because John Lynch said we don't know anything more than what is out there.
Played pretty dumb on that one.
Well, if you're going to trade up to the Dolphins at 3, and you're going to trade, if you're willing to trade 2 1s and another 1, wouldn't you also call the Jets? Wouldn't you call the Jets? Because ideally, you would just trade that. If that could get you the second pick, then you would trade all that stuff for the second pick. right? Wouldn't you call the Jets?
If the Jets were going to keep Sam Darnold, wouldn't they do that deal? 3 1s and a 3.
I'm just saying, wouldn't you call the Jets? Just like, hey, you guys interested in this? Darnold at some point, they did the due diligence on him. What would it cost to get up to 2? Wouldn't the Niners talk to the Jets at some point? Officially or unofficially?
I'm just saying, like, if the Niners, let's just say Sam Darnold was viewed as good, and no one was even like, oh, the Jets don't need a quarterback. Just like the 1 year it happened with Mariota when he was on the Titans, and ultimately I think that was a Carson Wentz trade, right? Or maybe it was maybe it was the Browns were the Carson Wentz trade, and Mariota was the number 1 overall pick with the Rams trade. But like they just had Mariota, they just drafted him, they were going to keep him. Let's just say that was the mindset with Sam Darnold. If I had told you, and it was never a conversation like they were going to dump Sam. It's like they were just going to roll with Sam and build the team, number 2 picks for bidding. Would someone have given more than the Niners gave?
I mean, if someone had to come from further, I don't know that the cost would have been higher, right? Even if you're coming from 19, right?
But you don't want to go from 2 to 19, right? You want to stay. That's part of it, typically.
Sure. But you still.
So then
the cost to go from 2 to 19, was that going to be 3 additional ones and a 1? Like, it's hard to pay more than what the Niners just paid to go from 12 to 3.
I know. That's my point. Like, the Jets clearly, you could probably read between the lines, they're going to get rid of Sam Darnold because they would have just taken this deal, right?
Yeah, because they could have done what the Dolphins did. Guess who's not drafting 12? The team that traded with the Niners, the Dolphins.
Guess who used to work for the Eagles?
Who?
Joe
Douglas, yeah.
Right?
So I do think the Niners have to, on a basic level, have an idea what the Jets are doing. And that's not even if we remove Robert Saleh and Mike LaFleur from the equation, they would have talked to the Jets about a possible trade. The Niners don't need to hide anything from the Jets because they're drafting behind the Jets.
That's where I go back to. I think it's fair to assume that they know, basically without knowing 100% because the draft hasn't happened yet, Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, they know who they're taking. Now, let's say it's Trey Lance. Let's say once they do this secret dinner and a hangout and top 30 visits, if they allow those, I think there's still a lot up in the air right now about the rules over this next month. I think, which is kind of crazy. There's probably some. If I was one of these guys, I'd be a little nervous. Like, can we get some things figured out here? I mean, clock's ticking. But let's say you have a weird interaction with one of those guys, and you're just like, well, if I'm Kyle, this was my guy, but God, I just hung out with whoever, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, and I saw some like RG3, and it made me nervous. Yeah. I'm starting to now overthink it. Now you can't. You're stuck. You're in that house, right? You've already bought into the market, but can you pivot? And that's where there is a lot of time. This is where the draft, the overcomplication, the paralysis by analysis. They say this is the month, and you could argue better if you don't have the ability to spend too much around them. If you've already done your due diligence and you've already felt good about the tape and you already know exactly who you want, then I do think you could have like a last minute pivot. Like, oh, this guy chewed with his mouth open and clicked his teeth on the fork. I'm fucking out.
Yeah.
Right?
He used his finger as a knife.
Because if you're thinking about it, if you're Kyle Shanahan,
this is why
you really like him.
This is why I think
wouldn't you be looking at the guy weird at dinner, like every little thing? If something bothered you, you'd be like, "Oh my God, did I just ruin my career?"
This is why I think he's watching a film to say, "Yes, this is the guy I want. Yes, this is the guy I think we can get." But I also think I can work with this guy. I think Kyle Shanahan thinks he can work with a lot of guys. Now you don't do this deal to just work with a guy. You work with this deal to work with a star. But that's the good news. You got two athletically superior prospects in this draft that we think will be available at number 3.
I think they've had conversations, which whoever they're smitten on out of the 3, they think they can become a top, let's meet in the middle, like a top 7 quarterback. I think it's, Trevor Lawrence probably, the likelihood he becomes a top 5 quarterback, I'd say would be less than 50-50, right? But if you can get a top 7-8 quarterback out of your pick, you've hit a home run and you're golden and you're a legend.
Yeah.
Now, if you hit on like Mahomes, you just never look back and you become a dynasty, right? And you're just in the mix every year. But if you if you do get it wrong, there's just no way around it. It derails you. Now, it doesn't mean like the Niners still be capable and they have a backup. They could probably be competitive, but you don't shake that. You just don't. You can shake drafting Solomon Thomas. You can shake drafting, that. You can do that. It happens all the time.
Because Solomon Thomas can play some snaps. Quarterbacks play all of them.
To me, the quarterback thing just derails your franchise. It's like this weight or an anchor that it's all anyone talks about. Because eventually you just move on from Solomon Thomas. You start talking about other players. Like, you never move on from the quarterback.
It's like a ship stuck in the Suez Canal.
Like
which is loose now.
How'd they get it out?
A lot of digging, I think.
I saw it like it was costing like $400 million a day.
Oh, my God. I mean, those things are massive. All right, couple comments here. John Denise says, according to rumors, they did offer that, and the Jets said no. I did not see that rumor. Graff and Kick said the Jets didn't want to go to 12. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, if the Jets wanted to go to 6, they could. But could somebody said, let me
part of going to 12, though, and then getting back to 6, you're parting with one of those ones, right? The Dolphins had to give up one to get back up.
Yep. Where did somebody just had a comment about? Brandon says, one thing to consider, the Jets don't trade out of 2 if they go the proven route and build through the trenches by taking Sewell. Yeah, I mean, that's where the Falcons are a question to me. Now, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think the Jets are going to take a quarterback. But let's just say, to Brandon's point, the Jets really want Penei Sewell. Do you draft him at 2? I think you do what the Niners did with Solomon. You go back to 4 with the Falcons, let's say. I mean, it takes 2 to tango. The Falcons would have to want to come up and move a quarterback. Or you could even do it with the Niners. You could get at the end of the day, you could flip picks with the Niners, get whatever, a third, go back to 3 and take Penei Sewell. I can't see them sitting at 2. That pick is just so valuable right now, and I don't think.
You think Zach Wilson would garner more excitement than the other 2 guys?
If he were just for any team?
No, I'm saying if the Niners were to move up to 2 and they move back to 3.
Yes, but I think part of that is because right now he feels like the guy you can't get. If it felt like Justin Fields was going to be the second guy, and then Justin Fields would garner that excitement. But yes, I think the Niners ending up with Zach Wilson on draft night would feel like the biggest thing they could do that night. But I think part of that is because it feels like they can't get him. Why? What makes you ask that?
No, because it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think everyone just assumes these things. We see it all the time that different teams like different players for whatever reason, and every year in the draft, and when it's a quarterback, you always drop, your jaw hits the floor. I'll never forget Blake Bortles. Trubisky. It just takes the GM to fall in love with the player. What if Joe Douglas went, I was around Carson Wentz. I think this guy is a more stable Carson Wentz. I like Trey Lance. I think Trey Lance has a bigger upside than Zach Wilson. Like, that sounds, if I just tweeted that out right now, people are like, you're an idiot. That is not, when you just take a step back and think about it, that's not crazy.
No,
right?
I mean, think about the conversation we're having with Jimmy. What if the Jets are sitting there going, we're only getting offered a 3rd-round pick for Sam. We haven't picked up his 5th-year option. We could draft a quarterback, Trey Lance, let him develop for a year and play Sam Darnold as our quarterback this year. I don't like it. You wouldn't like that, but I mean, that's on the table for them.
I think it's only weirder because he's way younger than Jimmy, right?
Yeah, Jimmy. Yeah, but Jimmy's not 35.
He's a 23-year-old.
Kyle was like, sometimes you want to get younger at the quarterback position. It's like, Jimmy's 29. No one's getting younger at the quarterback position when the quarterback's 29.
But I think part of it would be like the dude, let's say it's Trey Lance. They draft Trey Lance at 2, and the guy walks in, he goes, I'm the number 2 pick. And Sam Darnold will be like, I'm the number 3 pick. What the fuck?
Sam's like, I'm making $20 million. What are you making? You see any more? Let me fire up a few more. Here we go. Kent recorded a pod yesterday after shooting below 80 and some Coors Lights and guy crushing bottles. Impressed. No days off. Yeah, there were some comments yesterday, John, that the mountains on your Coors Light were not blue.
Well, again,
like a warm Coors Light.
You get a tall boy at the turn. I mean, by the time you get to the middle of the fairway on 10, what are you going to do?
Let's see. It's going to be Mac. Jets have bigger needs than quarterback. I mean, it's true. They got a lot, but Mike LaFleur needs to become a head coach within the next 2 years. They need a quarterback. Although he'd get a lot of credit for making it work with Sam Darnold.
Big time.
Here we go. This is Jonathan. It says, it was telling when Kyle said the top 5 QBs would go off the board a lot higher than people expect. He's trying to get Mac in New England's reach and force them to overpay for Jimmy. Interesting theory. So he's saying Bill likes Mac Jones, thinks maybe Belichick thinks, I can get Mac Jones at 11, move up, or 13 or 12 or whatever. I need Mac Jones. Even if I'm not taking Mac, I need somebody to take Mac so Bill doesn't end up with a rookie quarterback and then has to do a deal with me for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Here's where I'd push back on that. I'd say forever, like, oh, what type of quarterback does Bill Belichick like? You'd be like, oh, Tom Brady, everyone that's just a tall, stiff white guy. Mac Jones. I'd say that's been dispelled a little bit after he not just played with Cam Newton, who was awful last year, then resigned him.
Yep.
I think it's fair to assume, I bet Bill likes Trey Lance or Justin Fields. Mac Jones can't move, even though his athletic testing numbers were a little better than I think people thought.
Global Logistics, this is somebody operating from the work account, says trade the 3rd pick and Jimmy G to the Jets for the 2nd pick. It's funny because you and I've at least said Sam Darnold has not put together as much good football as Jimmy Garoppolo has in the NFL. But I don't. If you're the Jets, I wouldn't swap out. Darnold for Garoppolo. As part, like 3 and Jimmy for 2. Look, we got a month, so any trade proposal, I will not mock. I respect.
I'm kind of against. You've paid your freight. Let's just see who's there. No more keep buying up.
If you're the Niners,
I'd rather use Jimmy somewhere else and get a pick and then use that on a player.
What was remember the conversation between Lynch and Ryan Pace was basically, we're not going to tell you who we're drafting, but you'll like who we take when they swap 3 and 2. In other words, we're not taking your guy. Right, because the Niners wanted to make sure.
Wasn't it like John Lynch is like, listen, we want Solomon Thomas no matter what, and he's like, listen, we won't tell you who we're taking, but we're not taking Solomon Thomas?
Yeah.
Didn't one of them have to admit who they were taking?
I think somehow the Bears had to know what the Niners were doing because the Bears said, I think you'll be happy with who we're taking. Which at that point, guys, like, why are we talking in code? Let's just do the deal.
What a disaster. I mean, looking back at that, it's a pretty disastrous deal, is it not?
Yeah, it was a lose-lose.
Yeah, I mean, Solomon Thomas, and then like Jamal Adams a couple picks later.
Blake says, quit talking about trading Jimmy G. Nobody wants him. Only delusional Niners fan thinks somebody wants Jimmy G. There is a scenario where you can't move him, right? Where the Bears are like, we just paid $10 million to Andy Dalton, and where Bill's like, you guys keep talking about him like I want him. I'm fine running Cam Newton into the line of scrimmage 5 times a game for 17 weeks. I think I can make the playoffs. Hell, I wasn't as bad as you people thought I was last year. And the Texans are like, we want him. And Jimmy's like, I'm not going there. And you do have to have somebody to take him. And Jimmy would have to agree to the trade. That's the other part of it.
Yeah, I'm not. Here's the one thing I will say as someone who thinks he's not going to be around. I'm not into just like handing him away for a 6th-round pick. Like the value has to make sense. And we'll have a much better idea probably the way Kyle's talking and the way Schefter's talking, the way everyone's talking after the top 10 ends. We're like, well, all the quarterbacks are gone, right? Chicago's screwed. New England's just got Cam. They're screwed kind of. Like, we'll have a better idea. But that's where I am in agreement. It behooves them now. Say they're all in on Jimmy. He's going to start. The other guy's going to chill. And then change their tune draft night when someone goes, hey, we'll give you a pick 57. It's like, he's yours. And because even Kyle hinted at it, because you don't want to be viewed. These guys are in a weird spot. It's lying season, but when you're a high character guy, it's hard to lie. And Kyle's like, well, I'd trade myself. It's like you had to throw that in there to be like, guys, I said like we would trade myself.
Yeah, you got to make a joke to throw everybody off the scent.
Yeah, like Billy Bean's like, I'd trade my mom.
If the offer's good enough.
We know.
Yeah. But there is a world, like, look at what happened with the Raiders, John. They're shopping Marcus Mariota. There's no takers. They're going to cut him. No, they'll get him to take less money because Mariota couldn't find a place that would pay him more money to to sign as a free agent, so he had to agree to the contract reduction. If you're Jimmy Garoppolo and you're the Niners, if somebody's like in your scenario where you wouldn't take a sixth for him, if nobody's offering you a fourth and Garoppolo's sitting there, you'd rather keep him on your roster for a fifth if you just drafted Justin Fields and ultimately don't want him around Justin Fields? Someone's going to take his money. I do think if push came to shove and he's sitting there and all you're getting is a sixth, and he would take that trade, I do think you have to do it. Unless you're kind of changing, going, well, I'll let him be around, and even though that'll be weird for my young guy. Like, if you think it's going to be weird for your young guy, then you are at a disadvantage if ultimately you want to trade him and you're not getting much offered for him. I think you'd have to do it.
That's why to me you got to promote positivity. It's key.
I know, but who's getting, like, ultimately, if no one's bidding on him, no one's bidding on him. If there's one team that wants him, there's one team that wants him, you know?
Yeah, I think
which at the end of the day, it's fine.
I mean, I feel I have pretty good information. They had multiple offers. They were pretty good picks, and I just think they can get more because they think that time is on their side. Like, I think they believe the market's for them pretty good.
Okay, but again,
we're gonna find out.
I think you ultimately have to be okay if trading him away for whatever you get for him.
Here's the thing with Mariota. Based on 2009, there wasn't a soul that would take Mariota over Jimmy if they had to play a game. You know?
Yeah.
Like, Mariota's viewed as a backup. Jimmy's viewed as a guy that can start.
Right.
Which is kind of weird to me because I think I would have taken Mariota for like $5 million. I would have told him, if I need a quarterback, have them cut you. I think the problem is back to the draft is a little like wide receivers. Like, do I really want to pay big money for wide receivers, or wait till after the draft and then I'll reconvene?
It's also a weird year to pay.
That's where the Niners know there's going to be like a secondary quarterback market, right?
Yeah, it's
once the draft happens, who gets left out, who gets quarterbacks?
Darnold and Jimmy, potentially Darnold and Jimmy.
Not out of the realm of possibility. Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time thinking that Zach Wilson would sit behind Darnold.
Yeah, I do too. Does not seem likely. This is from JCB. Talk about lighting a fire under Jimmy's ass. Now we'll see what he's made out of. Love it so much. If anything, he'll be playing for a second contract with the Niners or another team. I mean, him being fiery enough has not been the problem. He hasn't been on the field. That's why they're in this position, because he hasn't been healthy enough to play, right? Like, the issue with Jimmy was not, well, Jimmy just didn't take football seriously when he was a starting quarterback for the Niners. Like,
he's not reliable.
Not light a fire. I don't think he's going to be a jerk to the backup to the rookie quarterback they draft. It's not about that. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not about that. Here, this is a good one from Connor. Do you think all 5 QBs are gone by pick 8, with having the Panthers pick whichever top 5 QB is on the board, or 5 quarterbacks gone by 8?
Yes.
So the other 3 players drafted then are Penei Sewell, Jamar Chase, and who?
The 5 quarterbacks. I don't know if Jamar Chase is
Kyle
a lock.
Pitts.
I mean,
so maybe it's Pitts.
I don't know if he'd be a lock. I think it's multiple offensive linemen. I'd say Slater, Penei Sewell. I don't know if Penei Sewell's a lock to be the first tackle off the board.
No, didn't.
I think a lot of people think that. We'll
Daniel
see.
Jeremiah had Rashawn Slater above him.
Yeah, so I would say the 2 offensive linemen, the 5 quarterbacks, that's 7. I don't know if there's a defensive lineman, maybe Micah Parsons, the linebacker kind of hybrid guy from Penn State who ran like a 4.4, weighs 250 pounds, who's 6'3". He's kind of like just a heat-seeking missile.
Yeah.
How do we do the super chat?
I think you just have to turn it on, and then.
Oh.
Why did somebody suggest that again?
But yeah, well, I think when we first got on, I remember seeing it up there. But
oh yeah,
that's the one where they pay to ask questions.
Yeah, how much would you people pay to get your question up on the board here?
I'll do a super chat.
I was watching. I must have been on Twitter last week, or within the last couple of weeks. and Grant had one. Somebody threw up $20, and Grant's like, "Well, I have to address this question because you just were very generous." It's like, damn.
I'd say we do a super chat this week on like Thursday or Friday
with like a buy-in, like the buy-in at a certain number, whatever the number is.
We'll $100, $100 question.
0%, zero chance the Jets take a right tackle at 2. Andre, I just put your comment up. You can send us $25. This is how it's like. We just send you the bill later. You don't actually say anything. We just put it up and then send you the bill. $350. Is that $3.50 or $350? Derek said,
I gotta pee.
I'd be shocked if that's why I knew this was going to be a problem. All right.
Well, I didn't realize we were going to go this long.
I know, but then there's so many people here. It was a good time. We're hanging.
I know.
Subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks. We appreciate it. Like this video. Mailbag it up on iTunes. And, we'll have another pod coming out on Tuesday. A lot of stuff there. Thanks, everybody.
I guess we'll probably get some pretty good stories coming out. Videos definitely of like the pro day. If Kyle and John are close to Nick, there'll be some interesting pictures coming out of that bad boy.
Yeah. Look, we're a month away from the draft. And so there's a lot of quarterbacks to go watch now. Not that there weren't already. Not that we haven't been watching them already, but there's a lot of scenarios, a lot of hypotheticals, John, in the words of Jim Harbaugh. Hypotheticals.
Let's do it, baby.
All right.
See you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging.